First up, Tim Cook responds to Donald Trump that Apple can't manufacture inside the United States because Americans are too suicidal to work in its factories, with many hoping that perhaps nicotine pouches gain enough in popularity that American workers will be more competitive against their chain-smoking Asian peers. Next, a look inside the NFL's decision to keep touching butts. It's supposed to be the tush push. Don't shove fingers in the hole.
I don't think this is funny.
Next, the billionaire grocer in New York City standing up for his fellow ostriches that the government is trying to kill. Lastly, a recent incident on a tarmac calls into focus the abusive tendency of man wives, and why if you've married one of these individuals, you need to keep a bucket of water on hand. Macron has, however, responded to the people of France, promising that in the future, if doors are being open, he will be prepared for being on camera, with him saying that he was just sharing an intimate moment with his man wife, and these kind of things happen when you're on cocaine. While some others say it might be time for him to leave the lady that looks like a Wizard of Oz munchkin had sex with one of those flying monkeys.
People try and tell you what you gotta do. Don't listen to them unless you think it's true. Follow your heart and your dreams. Follow your heart and your dreams.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Run Your Mouth podcast. Yeah, I see Matzo Ball saying that we're not doing Rumble today. Rumble's annoying. I might not even continue doing Rumble. I don't know how many guys like Rumble. You can shoot me an email, robsnewsroom@gmail.com, if you really like the Rumble. It's just an extra step in the process. I got to fill out all the forms. I don't like filling out forms. Everything else I can go live to. And then it hiccuped, and I was like, I'm not going back and doing Rumble again. Anyways, everybody, welcome back to the Run Your Mouth podcast. It is a pleasure to be back with all of you today. And we do have a full rundown of the news, but per usual, I was traveling the universe. I was out there porching. We had an incredible run of weekend porches. Thank you to all that came out. Next year, I will not be working on Memorial Day weekend. I'll tell you that. The show that we did in DC is one of the best porches that we've ever done. But I got into my car at 12, and it took me 8 full hours of Memorial Day traffic. I didn't even think about that. I'd stay local on Memorial Day. Lesson learned. But we had a good time out there. And this is what's great about traveling this country, meeting new people, and seeing new areas, is that I actually experienced food that was significantly worse than what I experienced in Appleton, Wisconsin. I don't know if we hit a new level of inflation in this country. Maybe this is Donald Trump's America, where food went from not good to actually inedible. And I'm not looking to put that on Trump. I'd like to say that was Biden. I'd like to say that was what happened during COVID. But oh my God, dude, I went into this diner. I don't even know where I was, out in Delaware. That's Biden territory, so let's blame this on Biden. And this was a well-reviewed diner. We didn't eat dinner the night before. We didn't eat hotel breakfast in the morning. I did a workout. We are ready for ourselves for a meal, and then we're going to get back and sit in a whole lot of traffic. And we go into this diner, well-reviewed. The entire town is sitting in there. This thing's stacked to the gills. This is Sunday morning, Maryland, well-reviewed, old-school diner. And, all right, a couple quick hot takes here. And first is, if you're an old lady and you have to work, God bless. God bless that you're still getting up in the morning, you're tying your shoes, and you're still showing up to your job. But I think amongst the mandates that I've said that we need to change in this country, 1, iced coffee needs to have ice in it. 2, if you're an old lady and you're going to be a diner waitress, you have to shave your mustache. Now, I'm not even saying that you have to get it waxed. I'm not saying that you have to put on any makeup. You can have a 5 o'clock shadow and use a man mustache trimmer thing, but you shouldn't be serving food with the mustache. Same with herpes. Herpes, someone in the government, with all the legislation we have, with all the government funding that exists, send waitresses and waiters checks while they have herpes so that they're not touching or serving you food. Simple policies here. And firstly, you know, it is part of the diner experience or going to a restaurant supposed to be theater of making you wait in your seat, where they got to start with, hey, let me get you the menu. Hey, let me take your drink order. Nope, I'm not taking your food order yet. There's a process here. All right, let me check back in with you. Let me bring you the drinks. Now let me bring you the food. Now let me present you with your bill. Now let me come back and you can go find me in another place to try and find your bill. Anyways, I don't think I've ever had this experience. We put in a big order. It's me and my buddy Chris Warren. We are hungry. We are famished. We are ready to binge out and really eat it big up at this diner. We each got plates of, I think, hamburgers, eggs. And by the way, you know how bad you have to be you have to be cooking things in this old lady's asshole to be messing up eggs and potatoes. How do you mess up potatoes? There's no way to mess up fried diced potatoes. There's no way to do that. But and then this gets awkward when the food is so bad that not only are you going to pay the bill, not only are you going to pay the 20% tip, but you have such low self-esteem that you're considering whether or not you have to eat the food so that you don't have to make the old lady who didn't shave her mustache feel bad. And then it's like an episode of The Twilight Zone where you're looking around and you're like, how is everyone else just eating this? Am I the asshole here? Do these people never leave this area of Delaware that they don't realize that this food, and I've learned my lesson about testing my stomach on the road. Porching is not a young man's game. Porching is hard work. It's hours in the car. It's rolling up. It's hanging with the fans. It's doing the shows, and it's a blast once you get there. But you cannot be testing your stomach on dicey foods when you're out there porching. And so it was like a jailbreak. I finally got a hold of the lady to pay the bill. You're not gonna eat it? No, we're eating it. I want to settle up. And then we had to dart on out of there. So some rules of the road for when the politicians, they watch the Run Your Mouth podcast. As the Democrats, we're going to get into it. They're trying to figure out how they can win over the youthful men. It's because you guys aren't taking on the issues that are actually affecting the people that are living in this country. You're not putting forward legislation that those with herpes should not be working in restaurants and that they should be receiving checks to stay home. That if you're an old lady and you're working in a diner, you should have to shave your mustache. I don't know if that's the health commissioner's job. I don't know whose job it is to come in there with rulers and measure the mustaches on the old ladies that are working these diners, but someone should be doing it. Also, I don't know, let me just order the food, bring me the food, and hand me the bill. We can cut down on some of the process here. This is not a theatrical movie of the American diner experience where things have to be needlessly slow for absolutely no reason. And then lastly, iced coffee needs to have ice in it or it's not iced coffee. These are all simple things and things that I think we could be fixing in America. And if everyone else got on board with fixing these little things, we would get to the bigger things. All right. Everybody, this weekend, we will be out in Texas. I've got an incredible run of porches. Go to porchstore.com. To give you the forward-looking porches, we're doing a run up to Canada. It's going to include a bunch of areas of Canada. It's going to include some areas in upstate New York. The next 2 weeks, I'm out west. We're doing San Jose. We're doing Reno, getting back to Reno. We're doing Sandpoint, Idaho. That's been a favorite. Portland, that was one of the, opened up for Dave last year in that theater. That was one of the coolest shows of the whole year. But I like all you guys, the good people of Portland. Bring the voodoo donuts and the heroin and the homeless people off your block. And just go to porchstore.com. There's a lot of dates coming up, but this weekend, starting backwards on Sunday, I'm back in Austin. Going to be doing a live pod with Scott Horton, and I've got the Panty of the Mouth Gangs guys on that show. Also going to be back in, why can I never remember the name of this particular location? This one always, can someone go look at the episode description and tell me right now what's the other town I'm playing that I keep forgetting? But working backwards, we've got Rockport, Texas on Friday night. And that one I've got Lemaire Lee and Nate Marshall on. And then Sunday, I'm sorry, I'm getting all fucked up here. I apologize. Saturday's Rockport, Texas. And that one has Will Hunslinger and Adam and Andy Melifarina. And then also the Owen Glass Band. And then Friday night, I'm with Lemaire Lee and Nate Marshall. The point is, it's stacked lineups all weekend. If you're out in Texas, porchstore.com. Come hang out. And then last announcement, and then we can get right on into this episode. It's San Antonio, Texas on Friday. All right, there you go. That's all the things I had to plug. Thank you, John Popick, coming through for me. And then lastly, if if you're just watching the content in the places that you watch the content, Run Your Mouth makes you work a little bit harder than that. You got to earn your Run Your Mouth. And you can earn your Run Your Mouth by going to robbernsteincomedy.com. We are doing an additional episode every week. They're coming out from the road. The last 2 of them were free. We covered, the last one was dense. I covered a lot of topics, was moving real quick. And they are free at porchtour.com. Some of you guys have already started to spend some money on the site to support the site. And I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate the people that, even though there's no paywalled content yet, have already stepped up and have already started making their contributions and sending their money to the Run Your Mouth Enterprise of America. So to that, I say thank you. And this weekend, we will be doing another episode, this one with Matt. He's going to give us, as the meter turns, going to give us some of the scoop, and I'm going to be covering some other topics. And then shortly, that will switch over to being paywalled. So go check out their website, robbernsteincomedy.com. All right, let's get into the episode because we do have quite a bit to cover. And before we do, why not take a couple comments from you nice people? Why not scope it out and see what's going on in the chat? See what you guys are all excited about, and get this thing set up correctly. Too many buttons here. Too many buttons. This should all this should be like clockwork at this point. All right, that's good enough. No, let's go. There you go. That's the setup I'm looking for. Lee K. Walker. As a cat, I have diplomatic immunity. I don't like that one at all. Runaway Slav. Might go see you in Fogston. Do you mean Austin? Is that another word for Austin? I recommend the Austin show. That's always a classic. Matzo Balls, Scott Horton, and Panty and the Mouse sounds like an interesting combo. It is an interesting combo. Maybe I'll get all of them to stick around for the live pod, and we can have Lemaire interjecting on Scott Horton and see how that goes, making a nice, interesting mashup. Dylan Porto just got here. I don't know the topics, but thoughts on the NBC shooting, setup or nah. Wasn't planning on getting into that. Maybe on the paywalled episode where you can share your more crazy thoughts, except they're not even paywalled. It's just Rob Bernstein, comedy.com. You can watch it for free. Matzo Balls. It sounds like you found an old farmer's diner. They made things in the same way since the 60s and haven't cleaned the grass trap once. Well, then, you know what? If that's the case, then you know what I say? I say more chemicals in the food, and whatever the corporations are doing that things don't taste like they're from the 1960s, even if that was healthy, then just more chemicals. If the chemicals are what's making the food edible, then I say more chemicals, even if it means that there's going to be more plastic in my bloodstream and that I'll have dementia. Matzo Balls. Jesus, Rob, do you think Maha would result in great tasting food? All the tasty is bad for you. I don't know. A simple hamburger with some eggs, that shouldn't taste disgusting. I understand if it's healthier, it's not going to be as good as throwing bacon, cheese, butter, a bun, creams, and sauces. I understand that you can definitely boost a product by deep frying it and throwing the extras on it, but some of the simple food should still just taste edible. In fact, if there were higher quality ingredients without all the chemicals, you'd think it would taste better. Matzo Balls, I only do Rumble because I'd rather give them my ad money than YouTube if it's an option. If not, I will catch you here. Fair enough. All right, let's get into the show. Last one, Rob Popick. Robbie made me a Beatles fan after his little nugget drop about Lennon on Part of the Problem. Yeah, well, you can go check that out there because that was paywalled and probably should not have mentioned that one at all. But what are you going to do? All right, here we go. Let's get into it. First topic we got for today is the Democrats are mulling $20 million plan to figure out why young men don't like them. And listen, here's what happens to the Democrats. They got greedy. That's what happens to the Democrats. It's like any business. At some point, a lot of businesses, you get so established, you stop caring about your customers. You get a little bit greedy. The products get a little bit worse. You don't care that much about winning. You don't care about as much as the research and development. You quit pushing forward with really novel and incredible products. You get a little bit greedy, get a little bit used to having your customer base. All of a sudden, your Subaru cars that are supposed to last forever start dying at 140,000 miles because they got leaky gas caskets. Think about how many brands you've seen that were great for a while, and then at some point in time, they got really lazy, and then the guy from Domino's has to get on television and go, yeah, our pizza sucks now, and we're listening to the fact that none of you are buying it, so we're going to go fix that up. Think about, there was a time, and maybe it's just because I was younger, but Subway used to be edible, and now who would ever eat at a Subway? Maybe it's just because I was younger, so you didn't realize how trash it was. But listen, there comes a point with brands where they're so successful, they start getting a little bit lazy, they start getting a little bit greedy, and they quit returning goods and services to their customers in a high-value way, and so their customers go to other places. And the Democrats were holding so much power for a long period of time that they got greedy. And instead of actually trying to give free goods and services to their voters, instead of just talking to the good, working hard Americans and saying, listen, you're working hard, we're going to make sure that you have your health care, we're going to make sure this economy works for you, they decided to get real preachy. They decided to get real preachy because they realized, oh, wow, we can just shame these people and they will continue to support us. As long as we can make them fear vaccines in the orange man, then they will be so in our pockets that we can then just use our control and power to tell them that they're horrible individuals. They should hate themselves because they're white. And listen, they're going to vote for us either way. And I think they got bitch slapped pretty hard by Trump round 2. That's what happened. They stopped caring about working class Americans. They started preaching to you about how we have to embrace the woke. We got to embrace the transgenders. We can't have our plastic bags. We can't have our gas cars. And they just wanted to really lord above us. And they thought that they were going to continue to do internet censorship so that they could continue to just shame us into supporting them. And guess what? It didn't work. And so now they have to figure out how to rebrand. And honestly, it's not that hard. You just have to stop shaming people and just pretending like you care about them a little bit. And there is a little bit of a funny thing here where, you know, Donald Trump fiscally is basically just a democratic socialist, which almost forces the left to be like, wait, we were going to offer them the free Medicaid and the Social Security and all the other stuff. So I guess we now have to preach trans rights. How do we be more to the left of this guy? I guess we got to preach that you got to care more about the minorities than the whites. And so they are lost. And I think a lot of it just has to do with the economic opportunities for young men, especially as, you know, we make these environments more and more lady friendly. And, you know, for all that talk of how women don't make 70 cents on the dollars for men, which not only is it not true, but go look at the rates of college kids and how many of them are women. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is the Democrats got greedy. And now it's incredible that they have to spend $20 million to try and figure out how do we court these groups of people back. And it's called, you just stop shaming them and you start pretending like you care about them. You don't even have to care about them. You just have to actually talk to their interests, not be overly feminine, and shame them into, oh, you're wrong for trying to live remember, you're in the privileged class. You're in the privileged class, and what you should be doing is working harder and then giving up more of your resources to the other people to make up for the fact that they weren't as privileged. I know everything in your life doesn't seem to be working out, and it seems like everyone's against you and that there's no opportunities, but remember, you're in the privileged class, and so it's up to you to make room for the minorities and to have more immigrants coming over this border because you're in the privileged class. I think there's a pretty simple solution here, which is you just have to do a better job of lying to people and pretending like you actually care about them instead of trying to just shame them into getting in line and then taking away their opportunities to go to college and party and tell them that they have to get a vaccine and that they're not allowed out of their homes and that whatever they enjoy, they're not allowed to do, and that they hate grandma if they go ahead and do it. That's all you have to do. You just have to stop being the overly controlling parent who tries to shame, young man, you better get in line because your dad works hard and you don't even deserve the little bit that we give you. No one likes that energy. But anyways, I'm just amused by the fact that they are spending $20 million to try and figure this out. You can just subscribe to my website for $5 and give me a call and I'll help you out. It's called Just Do a Better Job of Lying to the People that you need to vote for you. Sorry that sneaking people over the border didn't work, and now you got to get back to lying to Americans instead of shaming them, but you lost out on your internet censorship stuff for now. Donald Trump got back in, and you guys are going to have to figure out how to lie to these people so that they actually think that you represent their interests. All right, but anyways, this really caught my eye. This really caught my eye. This was from the New York Times For now, Democratic donors and strategists have been gathering at luxury hotels to discuss how to win back working class voters, commissioning new projects that can read like anthropological studies of people from faraway places. I gotta move forward. I don't have my glasses. The prospects for one new $20 million effort obtained by the Times aims to reverse the erosion of Democratic support among young men, specifically, especially online. It is codenamed SIM, short for Speaking with American Men, a Strategic Plan. They always got to put a fancy title on it. Doesn't this just make you feel like you're at the world's dumbest board meeting, or that you're back in school and someone is just putting words on absolute nonsense where they give you zero substance whatsoever, and then you just start, going, I'm going to take another bathroom break, and then the semester's over and you're not sure you're not even sure what day the final's on or what you're supposed to do with it. This just puts me back in school when they say absolutely nothing, but they put the fancy title on it. Speaking with American Men, a Strategic Plan, and promises investment to study the syntax, language, and content that gains attention and virality in these spaces. Or just quit being preachy douches. This is not that complicated. Are you really going to run an analysis about every douchey influencer that has won the algorithm, which is probably rigged anyways? And then I hope they get some guy who they think they can recreate David Goggins. And they're like, we need someone who will run until both of his feet are broken and then yell at people to stay hard because that's what's popular amongst young men. It recommends buying advertisements in video games, among other things. All right, good luck. Good luck. If you want to spend your money with me, I don't need $20 million, and I could probably make this a little bit more simple for you guys. And on the next note, Democrats seeking to buy the next Joe Rogan of the left after 2024 election defeat. They're sitting around. They're realizing, remember, podcast is the most important institution of all of America now. Good luck. You guys have had all the budget in the world to launch as many podcasts as you'd like. You've had all the budget in the world for every Fox News, every CNN show, every MSNBC show. It's television. I remember when Howard Stern left and then they cast David Lee Roth into that radio spot. And I remember I'd listened to an interview with David Lee Roth and I was like, this guy's terrible at radio. Van Halen rules. David Lee Roth's a bit of a character. That was a terrible radio show. Executives sat around. They do this all the time with celebrities. There's plenty of left celebrities. Just go ahead. You know how many celebrity podcasts they've tried to launch? They tried to do with Obama and Bruce Springsteen. That flopped. You got Bruce Springsteen. I never liked his music anyways, but you're incredibly cool rock and roller sitting down with Barack Obama, the incredibly smooth black president, and they couldn't even have a successful podcast. So unless you're going to go back to censoring the internet and figuring out how to shame us into getting in line and being compliant, I mean, I guess the best that the Democrats have is just hoping that Trump's tariffs and other policies blow up in his face. All right, moving on from that, and I will take a couple comments, but before we do, thank you to YOKRATOM.com, home of the $6 kilo, only place in the entire world where you can get an entire kilo of kratom for just $60. Longtime sponsor of the show, so if you're a fan of the kratom products, you're over the age of 21, and you're already a consumer, YOKRATOM.com is the absolute cheapest place that you can get yourself a kilo of kratom. All right, Lord Icy Spicy, looking forward to seeing you again in Salt Lake City, bringing in a group of friends this time that have no idea what they're getting into. That's always a fun time. All right, Matzo Balls, really, I can't wait to meet Slav at Skankfest or in Austin. He tends to come out for the Austin shows. Oh, for Nave, if Dems want my vote, they should command the PETA models to start sleeping with short libertarian nerds. Those girls are hot as fuck. Remember the Got Milk parody? I don't remember it, but, go, listen, they're taking nerdy academic presentations for too much money that is complete and total nonsense. So you might actually have a better pitch there than them trying to define the terms and styles of influencers and why young men like them, and then reverse engineer it in a way that promotes democratic ideas. So you might actually have a better pitch for them on how to make headway in the next election. Matzo Balls, how many failed podcasts before they realize you can't buy a podcast audience? The key is to be genuine and inquisitive, which none of them are. Yeah, their whole model relies on censoring the honest content so that they can feed you their bullshit. And the second that they are no longer able to censor everything that is actually good, they don't have a chance. John Popick, are you still looking for Porch Store sponsors? I would love Porch Store sponsors. Shoot me with an email, robsnewsroom@gmail.com. And then lastly, Remo Porchia, are you ever going to come to Detroit just for the Porch Store? I've done outside of Detroit for Porch Store 2 times, and those were great shows at my friend's farm. This year, I will not be doing Porch Store out there because I got a date with Dave in like September, October, and I didn't think it made sense to do. Southwest Airlines is getting rid of free bags, and I'm shooting from the hip here. I'm a big Delta guy. I like drinking in those lounges. I like having my Delta status. I like casually dropping it into conversations that I have Delta status. I like showing up to the airport, being able to go to the one LaGuardia door that's got the no line thing that only if you have status, and you can go, wow, I've run some status in life. It's like a 30-second moment where I walk into a place and I go, I have status here. And it feels good, and I've earned that status, and I like having that status. But, you can't always Delta. It's not always the most direct flight. Like I said, porching's a young man's game. I've taken all the Adderall. I've done all the logistics, and sometimes the Delta flights don't make sense. And now, this just is some corporate bullshit where I now have to find out because I got the Porch Store bags. If I already booked my flight and you advertise it as free bags, you can't, that's got to be a new policy for new tickets sold, right? They can't be changing this because I will hold up that line and I will have that Jewy argument with the lady at the ticket counter that when I purchased it, it was advertised as having free bags. And I'll show up with 4 or 5 bags. I'll show up with bags that then need to be left at the airport and tell them, well, security can do what they want with them. I'll fill bags with nothing. If you guys want to bring bags with garbage to it to Porch Store the day I before fly Southwest Airlines, I will show up with whatever the max amount of bags that I was promised to have filled with garbage and then demand that I'm allowed to fly with them. And we can see if I can Jew my way past them and then just not pick them up in the next airport. Or even better, I end up hauling all this garbage to the airport and they're like, oh yeah, you bought your ticket before we changed the policy, so you're good to fly with them. And you're like, well, can you just throw those out for me? I've been hauling garbage around for no reason. All right. Next up, we've got Trump delays 50% tariff on EU goods to July 9th. We've been hearing tariffs. They're gonna bring back the country. We've been hearing this. We're hearing that that's going to be the boom in manufacturing. It's not the Fed's inflation. It's not the other boom and bust policies of the Fed. It's not regulation. It's that these other companies have cheaper labor. And if we can just tariff them, but then remove the tariffs, you can have your manufacturing job again. And we're just going to temporarily threaten the tariffs. And don't worry, everyone's having conversations with us. We can't tell you where we are in these conversations, but the conversations are going great. And all the tariffs that would bring you back your manufacturing job are also going to be going away. It's a confusing storyline. And so, yeah, Trump, he finally reinstituted the tariffs onto the Europeans. And then the Europeans came back and they said, all right, we're ready to talk and we have an extension. And so now the tariffs have been redelayed until July 9th, as supposedly the Europeans were just pulling some European shit and they just kept stalling and they didn't want to actually negotiate with Trump. And so Trump pulled the hard line. He said, all right, we're going to 50%. And now apparently they're back at the table. And I guess we're just 90 days away, well, until July 9th in this case, to find out where all of these tariffs land. All right, next topic we got on the board for today is the FBI reopens 3 unsolved cases from the Biden era. The cases are re-examining the high-profile Biden era cases in the 2021 Capitol pipe bombs, the 2022 Dobbs draft leak, and the 2023 White House cocaine discovery. The 2023 White House cocaine discovery is the pettiest, but also kind of the funniest for you guys to actually now go after Hunter Biden for cocaine, even though I think that would probably have been covered by the pardon at this point. I do think that the Capitol pipe bombings case is the most interesting of things to revisit. And this is one of the annoying things of the Donald Trump administration, is that storylines don't sit long enough to really digest and figure out if they're bullshitting you. So, like, for example, and also Donald Trump doesn't take a firm enough stance that he always kind of has the out. Like when he said that we're going to start tariffing Hollywood, and then he didn't clarify if that was only for foreign films or for American-made films that were being done abroad. And then we all freaked out about it for a day, and then he didn't bring it up again. Or Alcatraz. Is he really trying to reopen Alcatraz? And then he just moves on. And then every once in a while, you start getting really upset where you're like, aren't you guys going to actually go after the deep state? You told us we're going to go after the deep state. You're going to go after the deep state. And then they just tease the story. Oh, we've got more Epstein information than ever. And they go, here's a bunch of binders to some influencers. And then you start getting outraged. And you're like, oh, wait, you guys have the two people that were supposed to be the outsiders getting in there and telling me we know that Epstein didn't kill himself. This seems like some horseshit. And then they turn back around and they go, no, we're going after all these people. And so like they keep the ball floating in the air enough so that you can have some hope. And you never know when Donald Trump is going to ADD and just completely 180, and enough people will have yelled at him and kept him accountable, which I think is the way you actually get him to do these things, other than instead of just going, oh, praise you, Lord Trump. I know that there's a grand plan and that you will get to all the things you promised eventually. Even though none of us care enough to criticize you for not seemingly doing the things, we know that you are accountable to yourself, oh, great Lord, or, oh, Trump, and that you will get to these fine things on your schedule. Because however the timing is in which you engage in the things you've promised is clearly the right schedule, because it's the Trump schedule. So here you have it. Once again, refloating the storylines. Go ahead, get in on the pipe bombing. That's a fun one. But can we also have the Ray Epps congressional hearing? It's like they just kind of, the things that you're looking for, they seem to just float in enough that you can have a little bit of hope of maybe they're going for it, but it doesn't seem to be a concentrated or focused effort that they really desire to do these things. But then it's never a firm enough stance that you want to take a full bet against it. So here you go. They're once again, I think the Hunter Biden cocaine thing, I don't know that that's the most relevant of the storylines, but it's funny and petty. In terms of the leaking of the Supreme Court, not as interesting to me as the COVID and January 6th storylines. But you know, I understand it, and we'll see how it plays out. Once again, in 90 days, we'll find out in 90 days. All right, and now we've got Trump to yank all remaining federal funds to Harvard and latest blow to very anti-Semitic Ivy League school. And then this is from Newsweek. I'm considering taking $3 billion of grant money away from a very anti-Semitic Harvard and giving it to trade schools all across our land, Trump boasted on Monday on his social media platform, Truth Social. What a great investment that would be for the USA, and so badly needed. And I'm going to be a little bit brief on this because I covered it on the last episode, robbernsteincomedy.com. Totally free at the moment. And then $5 at some point down the line, which you can afford, and you should give me that money. All right. I don't think any federal money should be going to these colleges at all. And the fact that you are sending the money to these people does give you leverage over them. And we brought up this story before. Yeshiva University, forced to have a gay club. You might as well have a monastery with a quiet room with a club with symbols. It doesn't make sense. You can go to any other place and be gay. You don't go to the Orthodox Jewish school for it. That just doesn't make sense. And so government exerts its influence over people because it hands them money. And if it's handing them money, they do have a right to go, hey, I'm not going to give you that money. And in this case, if you got Donald Trump and his base is Republican working men that he's made promises to, if you can claw back money from Harvard, which is going to research that is, I don't think, directly in rural Republicans' interests, and give it to them for trade school, all right, I guess that's the democratic system. We've got a slush fund of public funds that are just going to people. Why is it going to the wealthy elites in Harvard versus kids that could be getting trade school stuff? And government exerts its influence, and you're choosing to take money from government, and that's why this entire structure makes no sense. It's what creates socialism, because it's government money as opposed to the market. And, you know, that's kind of the way that this thing works. And so it shouldn't work that way. We shouldn't have any of this money going to any of these institutions. And if Donald Trump wants to take it away from those people and give it to his base, I don't think it's any worse than the way that other governments have probably exerted their influences over these universities. And that's why all of them kept their mouths shut over COVID and made their kids get vaccinated and pledge their allegiance to the regime because they wanted that NIH funding down the line. And so they all got in line with it. Now, there's an element of corruption when laws are not enforced like equally. So like, for example, we all saw it with Donald Trump. They went after Donald Trump. It's kind of the Chinese style of corruption where you have a million laws on the book. For the most part, you don't go after people for them. And then every once in a while, you get an enemy of the state and you just go after them. And so in the case of Harvard, it does feel like Donald Trump's going, it's time for you to kiss the ring. You got to kiss the ring. I'm coming after you. If you don't kiss the ring, I'm going to make it worse. Dad's going to make it even worse. I'm going to make it. You want to challenge me? I will make it worse. I think I said it before that he was giving out tariffs like detentions in the Breakfast Club. Well, now he's got his just eyes set on Harvard, where he's like, I told you guys are going to do something, and you are either going to do it or I will make it worse. And now if you don't do that, I will make it even worse. And if you don't do that, I'll make it even worse. And so now the latest of him saying, I will make it even worse, is that he's going to pull all funding. And listen, like I said, the larger problem is that the funding shouldn't exist. And this isn't the first time governments use the funding that it gives out to these peoples to wrongfully pressure them into something. But at this point, Harvard and Trump are really butting heads. And Donald Trump is really going, I will do everything I can to exert my influence because you guys are going to bend the knee and you are going to recognize all of my demands, which I think were along the lines of making sure that the campus was less anti-Semitic and also that there would be less woke information coming out of the university. But one of the reasons I pull up this story is just to showcase that when Donald Trump actually wants something done, look to the degree that he's willing to exert his influence. When you're in Donald Trump's crosshairs and you're butting heads with him and there's an agenda that he's looking to advance forward, he will go for it. He will exert all the influence and pressure that he can. He will badmouth you. He kind of makes it known when there's something that's important to him, and he will go to long degrees to exert his influence, or at least to apply maximum pressure at first, and then if there's enough retribution or it's not working out or the bond prices are going up, totally retract his position. But at least at first, he will badmouth you, and he will try and exert maximum pressure and influence to get his way when there's something that's important to him. And so with that, I would like to take that lens to take a look at, we can go back to the RFK Jr., but to take a look at the Elon Musk and DOGE situation. And I would like to start off by saying it looks like I got this one wrong. I saw the tweet by Elon Musk, and it seemed to me, we had talked about this on Part of the Problem, that since he's out of now that he's out of DOGE, he's kissing the Trump ring and saying, listen, it's not about slashing spending, it's about government growth. And I was criticizing Elon Musk because it seemed to me like he was just being dishonest and choosing to play ball and lie to remain in Donald Trump's good favor. They have leaked a short clip from a upcoming CBS News interview, and let's play the short clip.
So
we got sound on that? I'm personally not hearing it. You tell me. Can you guys hear that?
You know, I was like disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the DOGE team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, like, everything he's done on DOGE gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it could be both. My personal opinion.
All right. So amongst the storylines of DOGE, I believe Elon Musk was trying to claim that he saved about firstly, they started coming out with, we've got $2 trillion turned into $150 billion, which other people have claimed is more like $8 or $9 billion. And then another one of the storylines was, if Donald Trump truly believed in DOGE, why are they trying to pass funding bills that are just keeping what DOGE was trying to cut back at a minimum? If you're at least interested in getting rid of the fraud and abuse, why would you just continue with that spending? And at least here, Elon Musk, I couldn't actually re-listen to it, but from what I remember him saying, he's criticizing the giant big bill and that he does see that there is a need to reduce the size and scope and the spending of government, and that you can't have a great bill that's also a large bill. All right, and now here's more on the DOGE coverage. Here, I've actually, Steve Bannon, I don't know why this came across my page, but I've said before that I'm personally confused about what DOGE actually got done. It was an exciting storyline. People were excited. Hey, they're going to reduce government spending so much, they're going to be able to send you a paycheck. Look at all the fraud that we're finding in government. We've got fraud that's actually funding NGOs that are working against your interests. It was an exciting storyline. We were all on board with it. And then I was trying to say more than once, I'd like to, because like you just saw with Harvard, if something's important to Trump, you're going to see force. You're going to see, and that's why everyone go, well, it was Congress. Well, have you seen Trump try and exert any influence over Congress in any capacity? It's a little bit like, and I'm not saying that the El Salvadorian man should come back to El Salvador, but it was a little bit the bullshit of Trump. He goes, well, he doesn't want to give it back to us. It's like, well, you didn't really ask or try and exert any influence to have him back. It seems like you don't want him back. No, he just won't give it to us. That's the thing. Oh, I'd really like to have spending cuts. It's just that Congress, who I've tried to exert no influence over in any capacity except for yelling at that Thomas Massey guy for being a stickler about government spending, it doesn't really seem like you desire trying to even get rid of the fraud or the abuse, or that you've got a system in place here since Elon stepping down to try and continue the DOGE effort to bring down government spending, even if it's only with the focus on fraud and abuse. And like I said, they tease enough of the storylines, and Donald Trump's enough ADD. He's hard to criticize because you never know when he's going to revisit the thing and actually do something big. But I also think there's something to be said for fans of Donald Trump holding him accountable and going, this is important to us. That's how they got Ross out. People exerted influence over Trump and said, this is important to us. And if reducing government spending is actually important to you, I don't think you should just go, oh, well, the great and mighty Trump has a plan. Sometimes you got to let people know, hey, this is important, and then they actually make a plan or they actually pull through on what they were going to do. And so, anyways, firstly, for those people trying to say, well, it's just that Congress wouldn't enforce it. Well, has Trump tried to exert any influence over Congress to say this, the DOGE agenda is important? And then also, when I had been criticizing the DOGE thing of going, I'm not sure how much spending was actually here and how much of this is noise. I'm sorry, how much reduction was actually here and how much of this is noise and nonsense. And I'm like, you got to trust the plan. No, they're uncovering unbelievable things. Well, here's Bannon's commentary on that. And you got to give me a second because I think I need to make an adjustment here because I would like to be able to hear it as well. Let me just, I'm going to make a quick adjustment, everybody. I think I know how to fix that. All right, let's see if we can all hear it.
On the Tesla earnings call yesterday, Elon Musk said he can start to step away from his government work. Have you won?
That's why I don't know.
Like that fight?
Can you guys still hear it now that I just made that change? All right. Making the change here. We're gonna get this fixed. All right, and then I made a change. Now it's telling me that there is no sound at all. All right, let's just try that once more. And then if not, I might have to stop the stream, restart the stream, and then actually do some editing, which is not a good time. Not a good time when it doesn't go smoothly in live, and then you got to take the afternoon and actually piece it together. All right, tell me this time if you guys have sound. Hopefully you do.
On the Tesla earnings call yesterday, Elon Musk said he can start to step away from his government work. Have you won? Like that fight?
It's not about personalities, right? I do support DOGE because you got to deconstruct the administrative state. If you want to get to deregulation, you have to deconstruct this choking administrative state that the Constitution, the founders never thought of. I think with Elon, what I do think we have to do, and we have to be very specific, before he leaves, to go back to Tesla, although he's going to hang around part-time, we need to have an accounting. He's questioned the integrity of the system, okay? Like Treasury is $6.5 trillion. They can't find all this. Social Security, IRS. We need to have a very specific accounting of what he found as far as fraud goes and waste. And I mean details. Treasury's got to sign off that, OMB's got to sign off, and every department head. We need to know exactly what he found because he went from $2 trillion a year to $1 trillion a year to $150 billion next year with nothing this year. None of this makes sense. The cuts you've seen that have been announced are programmatic. Whether it's USAID or DOE, that's a totally different thing. So I think you have to do that. And also, I think we have to have a letter of certification that...
So just to stop there, I feel like this was pretty in line with what I was saying was, can we actually get the information on what they've done and what the plan is here?
Not one data set or piece of data of the United States government or citizens of this country are held by anybody or any copies held except for the Trump administration and the U.S. government. And that has to happen, I think, in the month of May. And
sounds like you don't trust him not to take data.
Trust, but verify.
And just more broadly, though, it sounds like you're saying the DOGE basically failed to find any cuts.
I think what they did...
And as you say, cutting USAID, cutting some people DOE isn't that.
They were a blunt force instrument, I think. You've seen some layoffs, et cetera. I think it's what the administrative state needs. The administrative state is choking us down competitively, right? This whole thing runs... Read the book Abundance, and not me saying this. Klein says it. The Democratic Party and the administrative state became so focused on process and not on outcomes. We can't continue like that. So I think in that regard, he came in as a blunt force instrument against the administrative state, not so much the deep state. Remember, our show, and we were keep saying, you got to go to the Pentagon. You got to go to the Pentagon. You can't be serious. If you're talking about waste, fraud, and abuse in our system, unless you're in the Pentagon, finding out how it really operates. And remember, they've been there 10 weeks and nothing. Okay, nothing. So
well, some things happened in the Pentagon.
Yeah, but not related to well, the.
All right. I agree with every word of that. I'd also be curious to hear Bannon's opinion on, in terms of the loss of manufacturing in this country, how much of that is due to inflation from the Fed and from the regulatory environment versus tariffs, and if he had to prioritize between potentially even getting rid of the Fed, getting rid of regulations, or having higher tariffs to boost American manufacturing, which of those three he would prioritize. But in here, sounds like criticizing. Maybe you just got to be slicker with your words with the Trump people and not criticize Donald Trump, but just say the exact same thing of, can we get some clarity on what DOGE actually saved? And if you're looking to ramp down spending, why aren't you taking a look at the Pentagon? And do you have any plan here to continue it? Because it seems like you're just moving on from it. That's what it seems like. And then on the same note, here was a video of Elon Musk, or this might be David Sachs. Let's play it and let's find out. So here's Elon Musk chalking up the blame on why DOGE failed to the fact that Congress wouldn't get in line. But like I was saying, same as it's a little bit like Donald Trump in the first time that he lost to Joe Biden. It could be that there was massive fraud in that election. Too many corpses in Pennsylvania voted, and they rigged the election with the mail-in voting, and they kept the COVID thing alive so that they could have this guy who didn't campaign from his basement. And there was certainly, by the way, what they did with the Hunter Biden story and censoring the internet was not normal gamemanship to favor a single party over the other. But Donald Trump was in office at the time. He didn't prove any of it, and he didn't prevent any of it. And so at the end of the day, that kind of makes him, in that instance, a loser. And so in this case, if he's actually really interested in getting rid of, let's just go with government fraud and abuse. Let's not even say bringing down government spending, but he's really interested in getting rid of fraud and abuse. And once again, it's still early. He's got the ADD. Maybe he's behind the scenes enacting his 4D chess plan right now. But it seems like on other things, like tariffs or like the Harvard storyline, he's willing to exert a lot of force and a lot of influence. And in this one, it seems to be at the moment crickets. So what are the indications that there is any interest? And so here, we're going to listen to Elon Musk blame it on Congress, which you can, but, he's putting Thomas Massie on blast. He's put Congress on blast before. Why isn't he putting Congress on blast on this one if he's actually interested in it?
The ability of DOGE to operate is a function of whether the government, and this includes the Congress, is willing to take our advice. We're not the dictators of the government, we are the advisors. And so we can advise, and the progress we've made thus far, I think, is incredible. The DOGE team has done incredible work. But the magnitude of the savings is proportionate to the support we get from Congress and from the executive branch of the government in general. So we're not the dictators, we are the advisors. But thus far, for advisors, the DOGE team, to their credit, has made incredible progress.
You've talked about $4 billion a day being saved.
There you go. It's not Donald Trump's fault. It's Congress's fault. And Donald Trump has no power over Congress or to influence them in any capacity or even to rally the American people and say that this is an important piece of his agenda. And we're going to start primarying some of the congressmen that are getting in the way of the DOGE. You can make this a premier talking point. You could be going after every Democrat that doesn't want to end the fraud and abuse in government. You can go after every single Republican that won't get on board with the agenda. But here, listen to the exact same thing from David Sachs.
We had a wonderful moment here where you have Elon come in with DOGE, which the president made possible. Okay. No other president would even have done this.
Agreed. Big credit for that. Big credit.
Where you get a total outsider to come in and bring a team of like young, big, bald geniuses, and you let them go through these departments line by line and start deleting things. Okay. And they made, I think, great progress. I think they found out $160 billion a year of cuts that can be made administratively. Beyond that, they need Congress to approve it. And I will acknowledge that there are still a number of soft on spending rhino Republicans, and there's just not a majority for the types of austerity and cuts that you guys would like to see. I mean, that's just the reality.
And also no seeming desire from Donald Trump at this time to put them on blast or call attention to that. All right, let's thank another sponsor, FENIXammo.com. You guys all love your bullets. You love your guns. You love all that stuff. You want to go out there. You want to do your target practice. You want to make sure that you've got an impressive safe when you show it off to your friends. So support the sponsor that supports us and grab yourself a big old bag of bullets from FENIXammo.com. The company out there that does not sell to the United States government. They don't sell to the military-industrial complex. They only sell to you, which is how you know that they actually have a good product and service because they're not on the government socialist gravy train. So if you want good bullets, you're in areas where you're allowed to stock up on that, which I think is the whole country. I think you're allowed to have your bullets. I don't know all these rules, and I'm burping in the mic for no reason, which is disgusting. But go to FENIXammo.com and stock up on the sponsor that supports us. All right, I think I had one more video, and then I think
we had a
else.
Wonderful. We had a.
Let's see what I had next. Oh, yeah. All right. We'll cover two more things real quick. This was from Zero Hedge. MERS says, prepare for longer wars. Germany steps forward as key backer of Ukraine. I also talked about this on the last episode, but the tea leaves are starting to showcase Kyle's theory from the Libertarian Institute that it seems like the Ukrainian-Russian war will be ongoing and that we will probably end up with some sort of permanent militarized area there. I can't say it for fact. Never know Donald Trump with his 4D chess, but the tea leaves would seem to indicate that Kyle's theory was accurate. Now, lastly, I will cover the getting rid of the COVID vaccines with a little bit more depth on the next episode. However, I think I kind of had that wrong on the last part of the problem. And that, listen, I've personally moved on from COVID. I thought that it was ridiculous how for the first couple months it was fun to panic. It was fun to go back home and drink with your parents and eat cake out of their fridge. And it was a good time to change things up and to get all excited that maybe we're at the end of the world and that there was this incredibly dangerous virus. And then after a month or two, more information came out and it was time to move on with our lives. And most people did not move on with their lives. And then they started pushing these vaccines and they seemed not to be all that beneficial or all that well studied, where it did not make sense to me to take them. And guys, I did some of the best COVID coverage on the show. I will, you can put up my analysis at the time against just about anyone else. A lot of you fans came to the show because of the work that I did over COVID, debunking all the stories. I got into the weeds. I was researching everything, and I was very on top of it. I have so moved on from the topic because I did not even realize that it was a part of anyone's life anymore. It was irrelevant to my life, except that it was ruining everyone else's life. So I tried to educate them, but I had moved on from it. And I was shocked to find out that parents are still getting their children vaccinated for COVID, or that there's a single doctor. And I understand that maybe it was like a CDC on the books thing, but I wasn't aware that any school. I still don't think schools are mandating that you get it. But I looked into it. Apparently, I think it's like between 13 and 15% of kids are still getting regular booster shots. It was about 9 million kids a year. And so that's not the majority of kids, but that's still too many kids for something that's completely not necessary, and is shocking that it's continuing. With that said, this field, if you're interested in, and listen, I guess you can't fault progress. It's like watching a fat guy say, instead of eating 3 Butterfingers, he's going to cut it down to 1 Reese's. It's like, all right, good for you. You're cutting this down to 1 Reese's. But can we go prosecute Fauci? Can we actually showcase the storyline of how much fraud and corruption there was, and showcasing the story and robbing of us of our lives, so that more people can realize how evil and demonic government is? And the fact that we've got to get all this pharmaceutical and this corporate interest out of government. Everyone's all afraid of the corporations. The tool of the corporations is government, and that they are able to force us to engage with and use their products and services, and while they protect them from competition. And so, listen, I was just so removed from the storyline that I almost thought it was funny that we're at a point now where they have to actually make a formal policy that they're not recommending it, because I couldn't believe that they were still recommending it, or that there were still 9 million parents out there that were so stupid, or 9 million doctors that are so stupid. Not 9 million. I don't know how many shots each doctor's given to kids. If it's 1,000, it's still a high number of doctors if there's 9 million kids that are still getting this. You know, it's like when I see someone with a mask at the airport, you're like, oh, wow, I can't even believe you're doing that. There's still one idiot out there. I didn't realize that there were idiots out there that were still engaging in this. And once again, I know a lot of you don't criticize, but, you know, why don't we talk the bigger agenda? Let's actually unwind a lot of the fraud. That seems like, but I guess you don't criticize improvement. Yes, it's better that we are no longer recommending the vaccines to kids than the government still has that as a formal recommendation. I was genuinely surprised by the fact that anyone was still doing that, because sometimes even I can't wave my head around just how stupid people are. All right, that is our episode. Thank you for hanging out with us, guys. Porchstore.com, doing shows all summer long. With the exception of San Antonio Friday, I have an entirely new 40 minutes that if you saw me last year, I didn't do. I don't think I've scheduled cities that I've done with Dave. So if you're coming out, I'm doing new material. I've got incredible openers on every single show. The Texas run this weekend is stacked with some hilarious comics. Dave Marshall, Nate Marshall, Lemaire Lee, Annie Malfarina, my friend Will. So guys, they are packed lineups. If you're out in Texas, come hang out. And then lastly, be on the lookout, robbernsteincomedy.com. We've got weekend episodes going up there. They are free at the moment, and at some point in the future, they will be paywalled, and you can be a supporting listener for the high price tag of $5 whole. Thank you, everybody. Natalie DeCoco saying that Dave cancels, so I'm watching you, Robbie. I'm going to guess that that's not actually Natalie, but you never know. Junior, Robbie was the not evil Peter Hotez during COVID. Thank you. Ren letting me know that Rumble is gay. John Popek, why would Trump put them on blast? It's his big, beautiful bill. He loves everything about himself. Best bill ever. Fair enough. All right. Lord Icy Spicy, what about Dave? New material from last year? Yeah, Dave's got a ton of new stuff. John Popek, women are... yeah, there you go. All right, that is our episode. Thanks for hanging thanks for hanging out. Once again, there'll be a weekend episode at robbernsteincomedy.com, and then there'll probably be on Sunday or Monday, I'll put up the Scott Horton episode that we're doing in Texas for everybody, and then back next week Wednesday with another in-studio episode. Thanks for hanging out. That's it. Later, dudes.